Friends, we are live. Welcome on this Monday afternoon, April the 14th. Rusty McCranie with you here, CFLW, the show. Great to see you guys. Hope you had a great weekend. We had a gorgeous weekend, a little bit cool in the morning hours. Plenty of sunshine and some warmer weather for the afternoon. We have an early week cold front that is on the way late Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll talk about how that's going to influence our weather. Great to see you guys on this Monday. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for liking the live stream. Thank you for subscribing to Central Florida Weather Live. As always, CFLW, sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They cover the entire state from the Panhandle down to the Keys. Anything that can impact you or your property. Hurricanes, hail damage, burst pipes, you've been in a car accident. They're going to walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. If you would like more information, their logo and their website is right below me. Go to leanonmelaw.com. All right, so beautiful day ahead. We're going to be talking about some changes coming our way for us here. I've got some forecasts for you, and if you stick around, we're going to talk a little bit about hurricane season as well. I'm going to be slipping in some hurricane discussion from time to time as we get a little bit closer to June 1st. Remember, about a week and a half ago, we looked at the Colorado State University first blush of a forecast for the 2025 season. Fantastic day ahead, friends. Our visible satellite imagery temperature is on the board for you right now, live, beginning to climb through the 70s. We're knocking on the door around 80 degrees in a lot of locations right now. 79 is going to be a very common number here at the 1 o'clock hour. I'll let this loop up one more time. We'll pause it there. 79 Daytona. Same thing for Titusville, Sanford, MCO, the south side of Orlando, Lakeland, on over towards the Plant City, Brandon area, Tampa 75, Spring Hill 79, Crystal River, Ocala, Leesburg 77, Gainesville 75, Melbourne, Palm Bay also in at 79. Did I mention Titusville, Cape Canaveral also in at that 79 degree mark. Winds today are mainly going to be fairly light and somewhat variable here, but if anything, there'll be a breath of a south wind. Now, from time to time, the winds will be picking up. You can see winds right now there in Titusville just out of the southwest at around 8. There's a south wind at around 5. It's interesting because Orlando has had a stronger wind up to 18, but most areas right now, wind gusts are much lighter for the most part here. If we have anything, winds of 10 in Tampa, winds are light and variable at around 5. But eventually these winds will get stronger, but they'll also be coming out of the north as we see a cold front move into the area here. And again, that's going to change up our forecast a little bit for us here. But it's a beautiful afternoon for us, so because of that, you know, we got to take a look at our cameras, so let's do that. We'll take a live look to our Lake Conway camera. This again is just southeast of downtown Orlando, live here on CFLW. Beautiful afternoon, nothing but sunshine for you right now. Just a gentle breeze there at Lake Conway. By the way, again, you look at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see current conditions rolling across our entire area. Those update for you as we get the new observations in. So again, a lot of reporting going on down there at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to see where you live and what the current conditions and your temperature is. Winter Garden. Again, you can't find a cloud in the sky out there in Winter Garden for you right now. Nothing but sunshine looking to the west here on the western sides of Orange County. Again, the air is relatively dry for us here. But again, one of the problems is it does continue to be relatively dry, which means the drought conditions in Central Florida and the risk for fires continues to be elevated for us here. Live look outside to our camera just to the north and east of the Disney area, the Disney property, as we look southwest back down towards the Magic Kingdom. Again, this camera is just a mile from the attractions, and the attractions forecast absolutely looks gorgeous. And I'm going to have a lot more on that coming up in just a couple of minutes. All right, let's get back over to the weather computer for us here. Let me pop that back up on my side. Okay, so let's discuss kind of the broader view and how things are going to be changing. I'm going to get out a little bit farther here. I'm going to bring back on our radar data as well. By the way, love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below what's been happening in your area. You have a specific question about the forecast, let me know in the comment section below. So we're just starting to actually gather some steam with an area of low pressure that's in the western Great Lakes. It's going to drag a cold front through the southern Great Lakes and into the Ohio Valley. I'll bring on the fronts and our centers here, and you can see that. Now, this front does extend all the way back into the southern plains. It's already beginning to kind of stall out a little bit, and this is going to be a very weak front overall. Again, we we are getting into mid-April, friends, it becomes much rarer and rarer, especially the deeper into April that we go, that we actually see these fronts come in with any real true oomph. Now, that being said, I still expect us to see winds swing out of the north. It's an indication that the front will clear the area and actually bring us some changes. But is it going to bring us any rain? That's what we'll get into. Right now, you can see it's just a couple of light showers in the northern sides of Illinois and Indiana and northwest sides of Ohio, but these are areas that will actually see the opportunity for some severe weather later today. It doesn't look like much right now, does it? But as this system pulls off to the east and the warm moisture-laden air is coming from the south, the Storm Prediction Center has actually raised this risk over the last couple of days. It was just the marginal risk earlier in the weekend, then it became the slight risk in the yellow, and now it's an enhanced risk. That's a 3 out of 5 for portions of mainly West Virginia, from Charleston to the Clarksburg area, back down towards Beckley and Lewisburg, and then the far western sides of Virginia. It's a small area, but again, all modes of severe weather are likely within these areas, including some stronger tornadoes. Some 1 to 2 inch plus size hail and winds of over 70 miles an hour. Now, the slight risk does push towards I-95 in Richmond, and it does include Washington, D.C., and then you've got your marginal risk in Baltimore. So there could be some major metropolitan areas that will be impacted by this. On the northwest side, it would be places like Columbus, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But again, it just kind of shows you that even though it looks very benign right now, right? I'm going to put back on the rain and loop this up. I mean, you hardly see anything right now. When I show you guys, I'll go to temperatures first, and you notice that the warm sector of this system with temperatures in the mid-70s, very close to what we have right now, is already in the southwest sides of West Virginia. And then you look at the dew points. You know, dew points aren't horrible for this time of the year to eke 50 and 60 degree dew points in there. There's just a lot of instability to pop off these storms later in the day. So that will be the risk for severe storms there. Significant tornado risk, thankfully, is non-existent. Your hail risk, again, that's what it looks like. Your wind risk is about the same area, but even stronger here. And again, and this was an area that I was just in for spring break, a lot of elevation change, and the winds kind of rushing through some of these areas that can get funneled in. A lot of wind can get really funneled in West Virginia with the elevation changes in the gorges, things like that. You can get some really strong winds being produced out of that. So that could be a big problem in those areas. Hey, Farah, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking a quick second and saying hi. I really do appreciate those who just stopped by real fast, and if nothing else, say, hey, Rusty, how you doing? Or, hey, I'm checking in from this area. Again, this is why I do this. If you have a specific question about the forecast, let me know in the comment section below. But I appreciate the interaction, and I appreciate you guys taking a brief second to let me know what's been happening in your area. So you can see the front itself extends back into portions of the Midwest and into the Southern Plains, and this is what's going to be trying to get into our area here over the next couple of days. It's going to take its time before it gets into our region, though. I'm going to bring on the advisories. That'll take just a couple of seconds to load up here, so bear with me on that. And while it does so, I want to talk about kind of the drought conditions as well. We'll go back over to our cameras. Again, if you're just tuning in, it's a gorgeous afternoon here in Central Florida. The wind's going to be picking up, and we're going to look at that. I'm going to talk about kind of what the HRRR model is showing as to any chance for some rain, but we'll also look at the wind shift. It is going to pull in a little bit cooler weather. It's not going to be exceptionally cooler here, but there will be a midweek drop in both temperatures and humidity, which means the fire threat could also be a problem as well. But if you have any outdoor plans on this Monday afternoon, just like the weekend, get outside and enjoy it. Things are going to be quite lovely for us here. All right, back over to the radar. The first thing you'll notice is at this point in time, we don't have any active watches or advisories in our area, so we're looking pretty good as far as that goes. Again, nothing as of yet. Now, later in the week, we might get a wind advisory, or we could get a red flag warning, which again is that the fact that the humidity is going to drop enough behind this front where we could elevate the fire threat yet again. And when I show you guys the drought monitor, so again, it's a problem. We continue to be in a drought. We continue to have our rain totals about 50% or less than what we normally have had or should see since October. That's a problem when you're getting now into like a 6-month dry spell. And this orange or severe drought is beginning to expand. and is beginning to expand right over our area. Again, you still have some of our southeast zones that are not under any form of a drought or being abnormally dry. That's what the brown areas are. Places like Orlando would be considered abnormally dry, basically teetering on getting under and being classified as being in a drought. The slight drought and the moderate drought is in the yellow, if you will, and then the orange is the moderate to severe drought. It's a big problem here. And again, we need more rain desperately, but at this point in time, we're not going to probably see it. Just to show you guys again, you get up here and you have drought conditions in portions of the Carolinas, and then you get into the Mid-South in the Tennessee Valley where they've had all those severe weather lately, and you don't. Because simply speaking, we have had no problems there. They've had some tremendous flooding. Now, the risk for severe storms tomorrow pulls north and east, right? And you notice that even as this front begins to try and work its way into the area, we don't have any risk for stronger storms. So unlike the last couple of cold fronts that have been working their way through, right, we're not going to have any real risk for any higher end storms. And really, we're not going to probably have a risk for a lot of storms in general. Hey, Garrett, how you doing? Great to see you. Garrett tuning in from North Carolina, friend of the show. Appreciate Garrett and Farah chiming in. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking a quick second and liking this live stream. Thank you as well for any comments you want to drop as we get moving through. So let's talk about a couple of different factors here. I'll bring on the HRRR model. Let's go ahead and do that. And I'll switch over to our model time frame. The first thing we'll talk about is the opportunity for any rain. Then we'll look at the winds. Then I've got some 5-day or 3-day forecasts to talk about. And then we're going to get into a little snippet of hurricane season. If you're just tuning in right now, from time to time between now and June 1st, you know, as I come across information that I want to pass along, be it forecasts, be it just kind of general trends, we will get into that because obviously, you know, we're going to be impacted, and we'll talk about maybe how this system, you know, how this season plays out. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Colorado State University first forecast. So here you go. This is the HRRR model. Again, we're going to watch these storms get very strong over portions of West Virginia and Virginia later in the day. They should polish off towards the Delmarva Peninsula. So, you know, I started this pretty late in the day. This is 8 o'clock. So, you know, we already have basically half these storms coming in. And you notice that these cells are going to be relatively discrete. And within that, there could be some rotation. That's why the Storm Prediction Center went up to the enhanced risk for West Virginia and the western sides of Virginia because of the tornado risk, the wind threat as well, winds of over 70 miles an hour. These should dissipate a little bit as we get into later this evening and overnight. But again, Delmarva could be hit. And then we'll watch the front itself just drag itself through the Blue Ridge and back into the Appalachians and into the northern sides of Georgia and Alabama. Now, as we get into tomorrow morning, you notice that a lot of this has faded away. And then as we go through Tuesday, you don't really see any true redevelopment as we go very early into Wednesday morning. So we're talking about very late tomorrow night and early on Wednesday morning. Could there be a brief shower? Yes. Do I expect anything more than that? No. Unfortunately, this looks like a dry front for us. Hey, Blue Goose, how you doing? Yeah, beautiful 82 degrees and a 39% humidity. You know, we talked about that humidity being quite low. Might have to worry about that red flag warning fire threat again. Appreciate you tuning in, Blue Goose. Hope you're doing well on this Monday. That's it, guys. There's not a lot of moisture in the atmosphere to tap into this time around. Not a lot of lift as well. Nothing really getting juiced up from the south to pull in more moisture from either the Atlantic or the Gulf. It's basically a dry front. A couple of sprinkles are possible. You leave the car out late tomorrow night, you get into the car early on Wednesday morning. Could there be a little bit of moisture on the windshield? That's about it. But otherwise, don't expect us to see anything more than that. Let's talk about the winds. I'm going to bring on, first of all, just the winds in general. These are going to be your vectors, meaning it's just going to show you where the winds are coming from. Let's loop that up for a second as well. Yeah, 39% humidity. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Look, man, the weekend was absolutely gorgeous. You had your cool morning, right? And then it just got really comfortable in the afternoon hours. But again, we need some rain. We're desperate for that. Unfortunately, does not appear that that's going to be in the forecast anytime soon. Of course, we're getting closer to Easter as well. 88 here in North Carolina today. I'm hoping that's for a high, Garrett, and not right now. Otherwise, we'd have to have a conversation. But yeah, I mentioned it. I don't know if you were here earlier, but I mentioned that the warm sector of our storm system, which is going to fire off the severe weather in West Virginia, is streaming all the way up into that region. So you're going to have a nice south wind today, and it is going to be on the hotter side. Now, again, for us in Central Florida, look, it is not a guarantee that as a front comes in mid-April that we're actually going to turn winds out of the north and get some cooler air. But that is going to be the case with this front. We are going to get the winds to swing out of the north. Now, tomorrow, it's interesting because, we're not going to be able to delineate when the front arrives by the rain. There's just not going to be moisture coming in with this. So you are going to know when the front has arrived in your area sometime tomorrow. It could be as early as the afternoon hours. It could be the evening. You may not feel it till you wake up on Wednesday morning, but when that wind quarters and turns out of the northwest and you feel just the slightest hint of a cooler breeze, you'll know that the front has come through your area. And by Wednesday morning, we will all have north winds, and they will be somewhat breezy. I expect the winds to pick up tomorrow evening, and then I expect them to be a little bit breezy overnight and into most of Wednesday. By Wednesday afternoon, the winds will calm back down. But you can clearly see that the HRRR model pushes a north wind, not just through Central Florida, but all the way into South Florida and the Keys and the northwest side of the Bahamas. This is a nice, solid front as far as that goes to push the winds all the way through. Unfortunately, the moisture content in the atmosphere is just such where we're not going to have any rain associated with it. So we will enjoy the breezy, cooler north winds. We'll have to worry about the relative humidity dropping with that as well. But unfortunately, it's not going to come with any rain. When I bring on, let's do this here. Let me bring on the wind gusts this way. I think it's probably the easiest thing to do. And then just loop that up as well. So I'm just kind of color coding this as well so you guys get an idea. The arrows will just show you the wind direction. The colors that you're going to see on this map from the HRRR model are going to be the interpretation of the wind gusts. If you look at the legend at the top of your screen, you get to 20, you get into the greens, you get to 30, you get into the yellows. I don't expect winds for the most part to gust over 25 miles an hour, but you can see that as we go through the day tomorrow and into early on Wednesday, there's a fair amount of green, which again pushes your winds over 20. It's really not, but 25 miles an hour is what I expect for the most part. And you notice that at the end of this loop at 8 a.m., we actually have a lot of wind in the forecast for Wednesday morning. So again, breezy north winds on Wednesday, going to be cooler, going to be dry as well. Unfortunately, not getting any showers out of that. So let's get into the forecast, because unfortunately for us, desperate for the rain, this early week front is not going to bring us any rain, unfortunately. So for Sanford, for tomorrow, nice start to the day, 60 degrees, sunny, breezy in the afternoon hours, as I mentioned. Again, it will start with, excuse me. Had a teeth cleaning earlier today. Swear to God, a chunk of something she put in there just fell out of my mouth. Okay, so Sanford, sunny tomorrow, breezy. Again, we'll start with kind of a southwest or a west wind, but by the afternoon or evening hours, we're out of the northwest. Again, as soon as you feel that northerly component to the wind, you know the fronts come through, and it'll be breezy after that, all the way through Wednesday morning with the weak cold front coming through, and a little bit cooler. Look, it's not going to be outrageously cooler. 62 the morning low on Wednesday, 80 the afternoon high on Wednesday afternoon. Portions of Seminole County will stay in the upper 70s. Everyone's going to feel beautiful. It's going to feel great. Plenty of sunshine Thursday afternoon as well. 65 the morning low up to 85 degrees. 65 the morning low up to 82 for the daytime high. As I mentioned earlier, I've got the attractions forecast for you guys. Going to be beautiful. Again, anyone who go into the attractions morning, afternoon, or for the fireworks will enjoy the forecast over the next few days. First of all, tomorrow afternoon, we'll still punch up to 85 for the daytime high. All right, we'll get that late front coming in Tuesday and then Wednesday, and that will again bring a north wind. 63 the morning low on Wednesday, 83 the daytime high, and then we'll really feel the impacts of that front here in the Lake Buena Vista area as we get into Thursday. That cooler north wind just kind of ushers in some drier air. Temperatures will be able to drop because of that. 56 the morning low on Thursday, so it might be a windbreaker morning on Thursday. for some folks. Playing an early morning round of golf across the area in the Villages. Mid-50s for morning lows, up to 85 degrees for the afternoon high. For my friends in Bradenton, an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous forecast again. Plenty of sunshine, right? We'll have a pleasant north wind throughout the day Wednesday. It will pick up late Tuesday, but kind of just stay out of the north all the day on Wednesday, and then swing back more out of the south and east on Thursday afternoon. And it'll just be a warm day because of the winds being more easterly on Thursday. We're not tapping into the relatively cooler waters of the Gulf there in the Bradenton, Sarasota area, so it does get warmer with an inland wind. You'll start off Thursday morning at 59, but up to 87 degrees for a daytime high. So really, really gorgeous weather. And again, unfortunately, we're just not in store to see any chance for rain out of that one. Now, of course, we will get into the Easter forecast coming up with the CFLW show later in the week. And I'll talk more about that show because I got something to discuss with that show coming up in just a minute. Okay, let's talk about the tropics real quick. I believe we didn't do it last week, but the week before that, we discussed the first forecast from Colorado State University, right? Kind of the bellwether mark, if you will, of hurricane forecasting outside of NOAA. There are other independent meteorological agencies, both private and public, that forecast, different states of their, what they expect the season to be. That being said, nothing that I have seen shows a below average season. And remember, we have to start to turn our focus on what is a normal season these days, because even the 30-year average, which is 1990 to 2020, doesn't really encapsulate how active the last 10 to 15 years have been, in particular the last 5. There's been some ups and downs, obviously. Now, the interesting thing is, if you guys join me on the Media Mundo channel, we've just starting to see the first signs of tropical moisture returning, right? Rather than just having our trade winds bring in some showers, we're really starting to deepen the moisture here in some areas. Water temperatures are also very, very hot. As a matter of fact, let me bring on the buoy data here. And the first thing that should pop up is air temperatures. These are air temperatures, and then we'll get to water temperatures. Now look, here in the Gulf, it's obviously still chilly, right? Relatively speaking. But we've got some areas that, near Puerto Rico, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable that these water temperatures in the afternoon hours, these surface observations, these marine buoys and these 3-meter discs, which are out there, our water temperatures are already in the lower 80s. And tropical development can be supported by anything 80 degrees or above. So you do have some areas here that it's already kind of frightfully concerning how warm the water temperature is. We're not anywhere near there yet, all right? But here's what I want to talk about in regards to that. We have a commercial subscription to a service called Weather Bell, and I'm going to show this on the Media Mundo channel later, but I wanted to talk about this. They publish something what they call accumulated cyclone energy, and it's not proprietary to them. It's something that's been around. But what the ACE number is this. It's actually one number. It kind of tries to encapsulate everything that a season could bring into one variable, and it takes into account how strong storms are forecast to be in areas and for how long that they could be around. Because a strong storm that sticks around for a while, doesn't dissipate in a few days, the accumulated cyclone energy from that is higher, right? So you can have a weak storm that lasts a couple of weeks, and that could give you a pretty decent ACE. Or you could have a really strong storm that lasts a short amount of time. You could still have a pretty decent amount of ACE. Or a major hurricane that lingers for a couple of weeks, and then you have a very high-end ACE. But this gives you kind of one variable to talk about the season. And so WeatherBell has put out their forecast, and unfortunately for our area, the central and the eastern Gulf, and then the East Coast and the Bahamas and all of Florida, the entire coastline, they consider this season to probably be able to trend above average accumulated cyclone energy relative to a normal season. Okay, so again, that's not talking about, look, we're going to get storm after storm. It just means that more than likely we will have an above average number of storms, but that these storms in our area could also be on the stronger side. Now, I don't know if we talked about it here on on CFLW, but we are officially done with La Nina. La Nina is done, okay? We are in a neutral ENSO pattern right now. There is an opportunity that a weak El Nino could develop through hurricane season, but at this point in time, it's not forecast to be strong enough to really influence the season, okay? And the last time that we kind of were in this pattern was back in 2018. And if you guys remember Hurricane Dorian that went through Grand Bahama, that's kind of the analog for this, unfortunately, where these storms took a farther north track, dove due west, and got very strong off of our east coast or east of the Bahamas. And that's kind of the analog, if you will, that Weather Bell used for this. That season, we had below average activity in the Southwest, Northwest Caribbean, and the Southwest Gulf of Mexico, and then everyone else was average, okay? Now again, we're not gonna put a ton of weight into this, but I wanted to talk about, especially because here, you know, there is an opportunity that we could be running above average when it comes to both the intensity and the number of storms that we could see. Blue Goose, those were all buoys. Yeah, I'll go back and talk about that. So I have access to all of the different buoys that are located in the Gulf, in the Atlantic, in the Caribbean, and they have all real-time information. Yep. And I actually have access to ships data, like literally the ships that are out there. Not a lot of them transmit live weather data, but from time to time they do. So there are ships that, you know, have weather instrumentation up top and they transmit live data that we can access as well. But yeah, you know, again, don't put too much weight into this, but I wanted to just get it out there that, you know, it's something that I'm going to be monitoring, especially because, you know, they're saying that the initial setup to the season looks a lot like 2018. And we had a pretty active 2018 near and around Florida. So we'll get a lot more into that coming up as we get closer to June 1st and beyond. Back over to our live radar. The live radar, that's what I have it listed as on my set here. But yes, to answer your question, Blue Goose, the numbers that you see on your screen are all coming from buoys, right? And if you're, you know, if you live in Florida, around our area, you guys know 41114, and then our friend up here just off the coast, 41113, and then the one offshore is 41009. These are all, I said, 3-meter disc buoys. They're all different kinds of buoys. Most of them are the 3-meter disc, but some of them are a little bit different, labeled out here. And then you have your Gulfstream buoy out here as well, right? And again, you know, this is all real-time information. You guys can see it on your screen. This last report was at 1240. That buoy had what? Water temperature of 77, pressure was 1023, and a wave period, which means how in between peaks, how often is the wave. We have 6-second periods to our waves. Same thing off of our west coast, plenty of offshore buoys, 3-meter disc. We're gonna have some water level buoys when you get closer to shore, right? The water level observation network. And obviously we can tap into some of that when it comes to looking at the St. John's and flood stages and stuff like that. But yeah, this is all buoy data. And again, this is, you know, this is all across the Caribbean and the Atlantic and the Gulf. Some of these up here, by the way, are gonna be oil platforms, just so you guys know. All the oil platforms have a tremendous amount of weather data. I mean, they need it, but we are also able to tap into that. So there you go. So yep. And again, when Milton came in, man, if you guys were watching my live coverage of Milton, I was really checking out the buoys here in southwest sides of the state, because the offshore buoys are obviously going to tell the story of the wind well before it gets inland. So these are almost kind of early warning systems. That's why I love to access them, right? When hurricanes, tropical storms are beginning to move into our area, we look at this buoy data first. Now, obviously, the hurricane hunters are doing drop zones, are using all that kind of stuff, but you know, the ground truth wins, right? What's happening at the surface, these buoys are going to help things out. All right, let's get back over to what's happening in our area right now. Again, nice little hurricane discussion, and we'll get a lot more into that as we get a little bit closer to the season. It's going to be another beautiful afternoon, friends. Upper 70s for daytime highs, or excuse me, upper 70s right now. Daytime highs will get back into the 80s. Nothing but sunshine. Not expecting us to have any rain threat whatsoever. Unfortunately, we desperately need the rain, but that's not going to happen here. Temperatures today were nice and cool to kick off the morning, 50s and 60s. It'll be a little bit milder tomorrow morning. Then behind our front, it'll get a little bit cooler. Once again, if you're just tuning in, we do have a cold front that's going to be moving in late tomorrow and on Wednesday. It doesn't look like much right now, right? I mean, it's bringing a little bit of rain to the southern sides of the Great Lakes and into the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley. The front itself, let me show you that on the map here. The front itself does extend back into the southern plains, and this is what's going to be coming through. Now, you notice that the warm front is already lifting north into the southern sides of Pennsylvania and the northeast sides of West Virginia. So that warm sector is tremendously large, and they're going to get all modes of severe weather and some nasty stuff here in West Virginia later today, portions of West Virginia. We could have some stronger long track tornadoes. It's a threat, hopefully not too significant. Winds of well over 70 miles an hour and at least 1 to 2 inch size hail. So a problem there. But again, this front coming in for us. Tomorrow, any thunderstorm activity actually goes north into the east. You notice that there's nothing in the southeast. And again, outside of a couple of sprinkles late tomorrow night and into Wednesday morning, we are dry. And for Wednesday, maybe a few storms in the Intermountain West and the Central Plains, and that will about do it. So we're looking beautiful. Okay, let's talk about our temperature outlook real quickly. It's going to stay hot. This is our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This has blasted up since Friday's show. So it shows you that towards the end of Easter weekend and into the next week, temperatures are going to be running well above average. All right. And we'll talk about that in the next show as well. But get prepared for things to get warmer. Maybe you're ready for it. As we get into the latter part of April, it's coming. The other thing is when we look at the chance for rain in the precip outlook, we are going to be either normal or dry. And that's still going to be a problem. Again, the deeper into April, but especially into May, that we get without getting either strong enough cold fronts to provide us rain every 4 or 5 days at the very longest in duration, or we start getting our sea breeze and our wet season to return, which typically doesn't happen until at least the second week of May, this is a problem with fire threat. And that will continue to be elevated for a while. I don't see the overall pattern breaking down and changing. When we look at the chance for rain as far as accumulation over the next 5 days, and let me just switch over here to the model timeline. You know, this takes us out all the way to the 19th. Nada mucho aquí. We're going to be dry, and that's going to be a problem for the fire threat as well. So get prepared for that. Okay, so let's chat about the next show. We have Easter, obviously, coming up on Sunday. The next CFLW, the show, I'm going to do it Thursday night at 7 p.m. Okay, so there won't be a show Friday at 1. I'm going to do it Thursday night at 7, right? As I've told you guys, I'm not necessarily married to doing this at 1 o'clock. A couple of different reasons that I want to try it out at 7. But the problem is that as we get into the wet season, doing the shows at 7 o'clock, you know, it's not going to get you guys prepared because that's when I'm going to be on live tracking our sea breeze storms and our severe weather. This time of the year, right, you know, 7 o'clock is still relatively quiet unless we have a front coming in. But I've got a couple of different reasons to try out the Thursday at 7 o'clock slot. We did it one other time, had some pretty good viewership on that. So the next show will be Thursday at 7. I'll probably put out a post to remind everyone as well. Before we get out of here, I appreciate you guys. First of all, giving some love to our sponsor, the leading law firm of Central Florida. We appreciate them. They are the exclusive sponsor of CFLW. They cover the entire state. Anything that can impact you or your property. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. So, you know, you got hail damage, you got a burst pipe, you've been in an auto accident. They're going to walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. We never like to think about it, right? But if it happens in your life and you want an advocate on your side, you got to reach out to leanonmelaw.com. Speak to Bobby Lean and the team there if you would like more information. Coming up on Thursday evening show, we're going to get into the Easter forecast, right? We'll be tracking another front if that's going to bring us the opportunity for some rain. Now, obviously, things look to be relatively dry in the next 5 days, but by Sunday and into the early next week, we'll at least get a couple of showers. And what do those temperatures look like for our holiday weekend? That will be the story. So again, I will see you guys Thursday at 7 p.m. I'll probably put out a post, but you can always, if you have your notifications on, which again for CFLW, I recommend having all notifications because this is only a live channel, so we never inundate you guys with notifications on your phone or your tablets or wherever you watch CFLW. But that way you know when I schedule a show, right? You'll get a notification that says, hey, CFLW, the show is scheduled for this date and time, and then you know you can tune in at that point in time. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, even on the recorded version. These will always get archived under the live tab of the CFLW YouTube channel. You can watch them at your leisure. If you have a specific question about the forecast at any point in time, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. As we leave, again, thank you guys so much for taking a quick second and liking this live stream and subscribing to CFLW if you have not. Get outside, kick the kids outside, enjoy a beautiful few days here in Central Florida. I will see you guys live Thursday at 7 p.m. Until then, y'all take care. I'll see you then.